Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Windbreakers podcast. We're all keeping the lights on here while everyone else is at PAX having a fucking whale of a time, I'm sure.
Fuckers. Jesse's in the chat, though, so at least Jesse's contributing while also being at PAX.
Thanks, Jesse.
Oh, bully for fucking Jesse. We're all alone here. It's like when you go to school after hours and everything's dark.
Yeah. It's horrible. All the teachers hiding under the desks.
Also, it's a holiday. We're at school on a holiday. It's an American holiday.
Oh,
What holiday is it for you today?
Labor Day. It's
What
like
does
the
that
unofficial end of summer. I don't know. It's like, let's
Is it
celebrate
like
the
the pre-
laborers.
Yeah.
Is that like the pre-giving birthday?
Yeah.
I don't get holidays. I work for myself. Holidays are just days when I can't go shopping.
I get that. All of my friends in England are like, "Oh, Jay, it's a bank holiday today. Like, you shouldn't be working." And I'm like, "Mate, one, I work on American time schedules, and two, our jobs do not permit that stuff. Like,
Yes.
it's
You
not
just take
happening.
a day off, and you just then have to do that work
Another day. What's the point?
Yes. Yeah, this shit's got to get done by Friday, man.
Actually,
Anyway.
that's a lie. I took today off to spend. I did work yesterday. I took today off to spend time with my mum for her 50th
working
birthday.
right now.
Yeah, I know, but I've come back. You got to remember, it's nighttime for me now.
Oh, that's true.
My mum, guess what she wanted to do for her 50th? Play VR puzzle games. What a legend!
What a
absolute
cool mum. What a
think
cool,
mum
very
is
antisocial
close.
mum you must have.
Yep. Preach.
Anyway, this week's topic is how to make failure fun in video games, which is covers a few broad areas, I'd say. Would it be fair to say, Jay, as a game designer, as a fellow game designer, the failure state is more or less a fundamental aspect of game design?
Yeah, I think there's an argument to be made that if you don't have a failure state, it's not necessarily a game.
No. Is this happening again?
Counterpoint, LucasArts Adventure Games, but never mind.
Yeah, but it is integral, to all aspects of design. And if you fumble it, you can dramatically decrease how long your players spend in your game. I mean, I just made an episode on this, on the one mechanic of killing games before they start.
But what are we talking about here, Marty, specifically? Like when a game doesn't necessarily want you to avoid failing?
Yeah, so I've thought of this in sort of like two halves, and one is mechanical failure. So games that maybe handle the idea of failing mechanically in an interesting way, games that do something different about it, like what is it about the carrot on the end of the stick that makes you coming back, as opposed to becoming frustrated. And then the other half I think of is narratively, and that's why we have Red Dead in the image here, is not because of how it mechanically handles death, like regular death in missions, because it's a Rockstar game. It doesn't do anything too unique there. But in how, I guess, spoilers for Red Dead, you reach a point near the end of the story that you come to a confrontation that you just can't survive. And there is no success. And you have to fail it. And you have to deal with the consequences of that failure.
Yes, the ending of Halo Reach, one can put in a similar category.
Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And Red Dead 2,
And Red Dead 2 to an extent. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They put you in the no-win scenario, but you feel like this is like the intended ending of the game.
Yeah, and that's you get movies and books and TV shows that sort of have those kind of endings, but I feel like we're so like our thoughts when playing games are so ingrained on success. I mean, I guess in the arcades, it was you play until you die. Like that was, I guess, the original, like everyone dies at the end or you put in another quarter. But after that, it was always like your character will make it to the end of the game and will succeed. And I feel like it's only been in the last 10, 15 years or so. Like Indie Mouse in the chat's bringing up Crisis Core, games like Shadow of the Colossus, Spec Ops The Line. Yeah.
Sometimes when we say succeeding, I would say comes to the end of their natural arc. And in some cases, that would involve a happy ending where we succeed. And in some cases, the only natural way a character can end is to die. I would say Spec Ops The Line is a plot that feels like it has to naturally end with the main character's death. And obviously, you can't do it any point up to the end, because then the game will be over and you're dead. It's right after the point where you like all the reveals are made in the plot, where it turns out you've been the biggest cause of all the shit that's been going on this entire game. You should probably just pop yourself in the skull right now, you big twat.
Yeah.
Although
there's an ending to where you can survive. You like gun down all the American soldiers who come for you to take you in.
But you're still like emotionally dead at that point.
You are, ostensibly, exactly.
Narrative failure is an interesting one, right? Because death, like closing your book and your final page on the ultimate full stop of your main character just dying can feel incredibly satisfying, like with Red Dead Redemption, and even side narrative characters that you care for so deeply. For me, Ori and the Will of the Wisps. And the ending of that game, super powerful. Ending with the side character and the main driving force of the first game dying, and it's really powerful. But like, at what point do you pass over that threshold to the point where it's satisfying and not just like cheap? Because we fail a lot in games. Like one of the worst examples, I can't think of a specific game because it's done so much. When you win a boss fight but you lose in the cutscene. Like that kind of forced narrative failure just feels really cheap. But when you build up to it, like in Red Dead, and it's this a culmination of the 50 odd hours you've been playing, is it the time investment that does it?
God, imagine if like the Red Dead Redemption had ended with you fighting a full-on boss fight against like the evil FBI agent or whoever he was, and with like a health bar and everything, and you get to the end, and just as you're about to kill him, then the posse arrives and shoots you dead. How would you have felt about the end of Red Dead Redemption then?
Terrible.
That would have been. I think it's 100% how it's handled, because there's some of those boss fights you can't win. Some I end up being like, okay, this is really cool once I get it, and then other ones I end up being frustrated at when it's like, if you can allow me to end up using a bunch of my my items during a fight that I ostensibly can't win, and then I end up leaving that fight, and I'm like, okay, narratively I had to lose this, but I ended up wasting a bunch of shit because I didn't realize that. That's super frustrating.
Oh yeah, I hated that. There's a couple of games that come to mind. Resident Evil 6 did that. They'd have like multi-stage boss fights where you were only supposed to hold out for a certain amount of time, and then it would move on to the next arena, but they wouldn't tell you that. So I'd use up my like magnum bullets on the thing in the first phase.
Hate it so much.
And I don't know how to handle that. Like, I don't want to be told, oh, by the way, don't worry, like, just don't worry about fighting this thing. Just survive for 90 seconds and then a door will open. Like, I don't want to be told that.
Bad for me, like, because as soon as you're not explicitly told, and you either need to lose or you need to hold out for a specific amount of time because the creature's too powerful. Every boss you encounter, if you hit any kind of difficulty spike, you go, am I meant to die here? And you start questioning the mechanical legitimacy of that boss. And that, for me, at any point if your character is questioning how you've designed it and thinking how they should then respond, I think you've failed.
Silent Hill 2, speaking of games where the main character dying feels like the most appropriate ending, Silent Hill 2 has like its first boss fight against Pyramid Head, where you can't kill him and your bullets just bounce off him, but all you do is like give him the runaround for a little while and then he just pisses off.
Yeah.
I think it's in that case
tell you any of that though, right? Like
it's a combination, I think, of timing and visual effects. Like if you try to shoot or attack Pyramid Head, he has no response whatsoever.
Yeah.
He doesn't flinch, he doesn't like stop advancing towards you, you just got to get out of the way.
Yeah.
And after the boss fight goes on for a while, but not too long, then the siren goes off and Pyramid Head just walks away from you.
Doesn't he like walk into the goop? Isn't there like a pool of goop he kind of just goes into?
Yeah, he just wades into the goop where you can't follow him. And you're like, hey, come back here and say that, asshole.
Classic Goop Boys.
That's an interesting thought process, right? The animation, how you frame specific things with animations and sound and enemy reactions. Like going back to Red Dead, I think one of the things that makes that so powerful isn't necessarily the time investment. It's also the shared understanding that both you and the character share of just, you are fucked. And there is no way out of this. Even with all of your, abilities, you're like, this is too many people. I'm dead. And having that realization and that calm and knowing that not only is his life, but the game is coming to a close. That's so powerful. And that's all done with like how you frame that fight, not necessarily what it is.
Yeah, and it's also when you know, like, oh, they're not just gonna kind of pull a sleight of hand trick and then bring that person back. I mean, John comes back in Red Dead 2, but Red Dead 2 takes place, earlier in his life.
It's a prequel, yeah.
It's a prequel, yeah. Like I still even found this is obviously on movies, but with the Avengers Infinity War, which came out in 2019 or whenever that was, and the movie is the first part of a two-parter, and the movie ends with Thanos snapping and Spider-Man and Black Panther and all these people die, and it's like I remember people in the theaters being like, "Oh my god!" And it's like, well, they've already announced the next Spider-Man movie, so like clearly they will fix this. But it's like your animal brain is like, "Oh my god, these people I enjoy are dead," and then your like logical brain is like, "Well, but I know Tom Holland is going to be playing Spider-Man until he's 50 because money."
Yeah. And especially when you do that with the main character, you're like, well, I'm not gonna. I know this game's 20 hours long, and I'm 8 hours in, and this failure state is just gonna push me to something. I respect games and movies where they subvert that. Like I was watching Godzilla -1 the other day, fantastic movie, and the main character in that has such hardship, and then kind of faces off against Godzilla in his plane, and I was like, I would respect this movie so much if they build up this character to take on Godzilla, and then the moment he gets to him, Godzilla just fucking bats the plane out of the air and kills him.
Oh, it's like, but no matter how good of a pilot you are not as good as Godzilla.
Godzilla, right? So, I'd love it.
Yeah, that's kind of like what they did, what James Gunn did with the Suicide Squad, isn't it? Where he plays up the huge cast and then like kills off 90% of them in the opening scene.
Yeah, which I thought was really effective.
Yeah.
The other, a lot of these come off near the end of the game. Obviously, the Suicide Squad one was early. A lot of these come off at the end. The other, like, my last narrative one that I think when I sort of came up with this idea was a couple months ago when I was replaying Final Fantasy games. But halfway through Final Fantasy VI, you fight the big bad and you lose, and he destroys the world. And then the back half of the game takes place in like the ruined world. Like it's just the world of ruined. Like the place is completely fucked. Like you lost.
Yeah, it makes me think of like a Symphony of the Night's Inverted Castle, I suppose, in that it's suddenly there's this whole additional game as big as the previous game you didn't realize you had.
Yeah.
It's a powerful reveal.
Yeah, absolutely.
Although we were talking about like the carrot and stick, the sudden unexpected thing you wouldn't expect would happen. And what I immediately thought of was Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
Which, like, the moment where the main character dies in a hideous nuclear blast, and nothing they did up to that point affects that outcome. Like, they even like stop to have a heroic moment where they rescue someone who'd like been shot down, and then they take off to escape from the nuke, and none of it means anything because everyone dies in the nuclear blast.
Yeah.
And
it kind of feels like Call of Duty's been chasing that for the last...
I know. Yes. I mean, it felt like every Call of Duty game after that felt like it had to have the token shocking moment. Felt like it was part of the fucking PowerPoint presentation they made, like for the game's design documents.
You can see the bullet point on. You can taste them.
Yeah, and they were kind of able to do it with Modern Warfare 2 with No Russian, of like a moment that people would talk about. But then it just feels like everything since then has.
No Russian was a pretty good escalation on the concept, but yeah, they couldn't reproduce like the shocking moment after that.
Yeah,
it was a good twist. No Russian, good twist. The original thing is everything's fucked.
Yeah,
and No Russian is more like you are fucked.
Yeah.
You are a pretty fucked up person to be doing this. You know.
I think how I like to see it is it be tied into, like you were talking with Final Fantasy VI. It being tied explicitly into the narrative, and your actions and the actions of the enemies have consequences that affect the world. One of the things in my video about death and how it can ruin a lot of experiences is if you repeatedly remind the player that they are, effectively in a loop and can infinitely try things, and all senses of stakes and difficulty and stuff like that tend to go out the window, and frustration takes over. And when a consequence for dying in a boss fight is the game changing, I want to see more games do that in narrative choice instead of doing, which box are you going to select and pick which path to go on. I want to be like, difficult game about boss fights, losing to them, does that change how the story plays out? You know.
Well, this is where we start creeping into the other half of things, the mechanical failure, because the first game I think of when we talk about failure more as a encouragement to continue is Hades. And almost like roguelikes in general, and time loop games in particular, have sort of cemented this concept of death being a part of the process of progressing.
Yes.
And particularly in Hades, because it's very good at softening the blow. Hades, like you go through like the as far as you can, you die, your immediate reaction is frustration, but then you wake up and you're in your home base and you're safe and everything's quiet and there's some people around saying, "Ooh, that was a bit of a nasty nick, wasn't it?" And you're saying, "Don't give me your fucking condescending sympathy, asshole." And then you're free to just bugger about for a while, just giving everyone presents and having chats before you try again. And I think that's a very effective way to sort of connect the gameplay loops.
Having one of my as well, you know.
Yeah. One of my observations when I was making Starstruck Vagabond in my research of games like Stardew Valley is that the gameplay loops feed into each other. You plant a crop, you water it, you grow it, you pick the crop, you immediately plant another crop. And that's what you want to do. You want to immediately let the player feel like they're moving on to the next job.
Yeah. Hitting a wall is really dangerous, and I mean I say this as one of the most popular games of the last decade. The Souls series is all about hitting brick walls, but a lot less than I think people realize. There's always ways to keep progressing and alternate bosses to go and seek out, and I contribute a lot of the success to games like Elden Ring. More of a mass appeal to the fact that you can hit a wall and turn around and go back into the open world and do anything else and just come back to it, because you really want to avoid that hopeless head bashing into a brick wall, because that's when people start asking themselves these questions like we were talking about earlier of, am I meant to die to this? Is this meant to be this hard? Is this balanced correctly? Am I balanced correctly? And your player shouldn't be asking those questions, you know.
I don't know. I find repeatedly bashing my head against a boss fight for hours on end strangely meditative. It's one of my favorite second screen activities, actually.
Interesting.
I'll put on a podcast and work at a boss fight, because eventually you're gonna pick up the muscle memory and start instinctively learning how to dodge the attacks.
Are there any instances where you don't like that though? Is that a universal rule for you, or are there some games where you're like, I don't want to keep bashing my head into this, I want to move forward?
Well, I mentioned this in my Souls-like fatigue video, but the thing that always pisses me off these days is the unexpected second phase. You bash against a boss fight, and then get the health bar down, and then you're on the verge of having that wonderful high of realizing you've defeated them, and then suddenly a cutscene starts, and you're like, oh fuck. And then, because the way Souls-like always do it is that you have to fight through the first phase again before you can get to the second phase, and you have to get to the second phase before you can start learning the new attacks and the new responses to the attacks.
I think that one is a really good point. Of it gets frustrating when it's a 2 or 3 stage, some of them boss fight, and you're like, okay, I finally, after a long time, mastered the first phase, and now I feel like I have to go through the motions of that phase every time in order to just start to get an inkling for what the hell is he doing in the second phase.
Yeah, I mean, I'd hate it a lot less if they checkpointed after the first phase, which some people might consider a cop out for a challenge focused game.
Yeah,
but
I dig it.
Wasn't that how? What was it? 9 Souls? Was that what you and Casey were playing recently? That had like a crazy multi-phase boss near the end.
Yeah, like the final, like the game's mostly pretty good for that sort of thing. It's just towards the end the boss fights start pulling out the unexpected multi-phases, and the final boss in particular is a very annoying one of those.
The final boss in Sekiro, Blue Eyes White Grandad. I hate him. He's the worst multi-phase boss. I hate it when you get to a boss that's multi-phase at the end of the game, because that's usually where I stop playing, because I most of the time go through games and try and do everything I can before I progress to the end because I want to be done. And feel like I've had a complete experience. So a lot of the time in Souls games, be it in Sekiro or Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, I had done everything, got to the last boss, and they are extremely difficult multi-phase bosses, and I'm just mentally checked out. I'm just like, I'm done. I'm not going to spend 10 hours fighting this one dude to see a singular cutscene. I'm done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's when you go to YouTube for the cutscene instead.
Thanks, YouTube.
I would mind multi-phase boss fights a lot less if you could see their whole health bar at the start that constitutes the entire boss fight and not just the first phase of it.
Okay.
Right. If you like, you got down to a quarter of the health bar and the cutscene happened and they pulled out the new attacks, I'd be like, fair enough.
That's because they fight as a full health bar that you deplete and then they get another one.
Yeah, I like a boss that when you get halfway down, you get a cutscene and then they go into like crazy mode and you have to fight the back half in crazy mode. But the trickery of like, I finally did it. And they're like, oh no, I didn't. There's an entirely new health bar.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like at that point, it's basically lying to the player. I mean, we've gotten used to like the GUI elements having a certain language to them. And one of those being, if you're out of health, you don't get up and get all your health back. That was always the case in fighting games, and it's always the case now.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things I find so beautiful about Monster Hunter, which is the fact they don't use those health bars at all for the enemies, and they have like 2, sometimes 3 stage boss fights that happen all across the map, and you have to visibly pay attention to what the boss is doing, how they're reacting to you, what they're doing, and it really makes you feel engrossed in paying attention to what they're doing, and you become excited when they get into these new phases. You're like, I'm making progress, I'm whittling it down. Like, and usually a lot of the last phase is their kind of weakened state where they try to run from you and they start limping and like trying to get back to their nests, and that is like so intoxicating. And it's not happening from a transitionary period where we're seeing a cutscene and we see another health bar fill up. It's just this natural progression of like, I guess, simulating hunting a giant creature, right? I love that.
Yeah.
Are we getting off? Are we getting off topic?
A little bit.
That's most of our podcast.
Yeah, that's not
one thing I don't mind failing in certain games if they have a cool game over screen. I feel like we've drifted away from the cool game over screen.
Yeah.
And I don't know what era. It might be like the 16-bit and the PS1 era had some sick loading failure screens. I remember distinctly Symphony of the Night cuts to that weird like CG render of like a skeleton.
Let us go out this evening for pleasure. The night is still young.
Who is he talking to? Like,
I assume
like,
it's the monsters talk. I assume it's the monsters talking to each other. They're like, "Hey, well, I guess we defended the castle. Let's go party."
Clock out. We can clock out now. I like Metal Gear Solid dying and then having a character yell your name, Snake, Snake, Snake. Or in Metal Gear Solid 3, if you kill someone you're not supposed to kill, a time paradox coming up. That always makes me feel
very
good.
cool. Yeah.
And then if you die to the main boss in Chrono Trigger, that thing that a splash screen comes up that like the future refused to change, and I'm like, that's cool. Like that makes dying feel cool.
I'm not sure if it's entirely scripted, but there's that scene in when Kratos is fighting Thor in God of War Ragnarok, and if you die to him, he revives you with Mjolnir, and then just brings you back up. That is one of the most metal things I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, like it goes to the game over screen, and then you hear Thor say, like, I'm not done with you yet, and he puts his hammer on your chest and like brings you back to life. Yeah,
that was so cool.
Huh. I never saw that. I guess I'm too good at the game.
So it's not scripted. Yeah, it's if you die there, and such a beautiful.
They do that in the Symphony of the Night prologue as well, because it's a prologue. You're not supposed to die.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the girl comes out and says like, Richter, give him strength. Yeah.
You should whip.
That was my little girl impression. I don't know.
It was
that
good.
Maria. That was great.
Yes.
I was thinking of other, obviously, like when we talk about like, ways that games deal with death in interesting ways, like the recursive.
In my view, you should try to minimize the time that elapses between failure state and getting back into the action.
Sure.
And whatever form that might take.
Yeah. And we always talk about
100%.
like Meat Boy and Celeste as the great games of like as soon as you die,
Yeah.
you pick back up and try the challenge again.
Yeah. Hotline Miami as well. And
Yeah.
Meat Boy is a good example of making failure fun, because when you finally beat the level, you see that little rainstorm of previous versions of yourself showing you
that's fun.
all your attempts before you beat the level.
It's important, like how you frame everything, because I agree getting you back into the action is super important. But like I mentioned in my video about Death, Little Nightmares 2, they're trying to frame it as a horror game, and if you repeatedly just respawn the player 2 feet away from where they died, every challenge and everything that's meant to be scary completely loses its luster, and stops becoming scary, and for me just turns me off the experience.
That was certainly my problem with Little Nightmares. Certainly I remember feeling that way in Little Nightmares 2.
Yeah.
Like the way it would every new threat you ran into would usually just attack you so quickly you couldn't do anything to stop it, unless you'd like play through the scene multiple times and knew the timing.
Yeah.
So it stopped being scary pretty quickly. It just became annoying.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen your scary face now, and I'm satisfied with the understanding that you will eat my face. Can I just get on with things now?
That specific flavor of like cinematic platformers, I feel like even the ones I really like Inside, that happens a lot. To where like if you do manage to luck out and get through a scene the first time, it feels like you get this adrenaline rush. You're like, oh my God, that was incredible. But more likely than not, something's going to happen. You're not going to react quick enough. And then you're going to be like, all right, now we just have to learn the logic of this scene as opposed to experiencing it like emotionally.
It's a balancing act. You know
what I've like is the scene in Resident Evil 8 in the doll's house with the baby.
Oh yeah, God.
Because when I first played that, I didn't die at all because I was playing very carefully to not run into this horrifying thing. It was a very effectively scary and atmospheric thing. But I've seen like footage of what happens if you do get caught by it, and I think the death with that sequence is so fucking horrifying that although it won't happen if you're careful, if it does happen, you fucking remember it.
I have a thing with certain games in a scenario like that where it's this terrifying thing chasing me to where I'm like, if I know I have a save point nearby, I will just turn around and let it kill me just so I can like experience that death, and then I'm no longer afraid of the unknown.
You're free.
Oh.
Yeah, like I did that with the Alien in Isolation. I did that with like the Spookies in Outlast. It's just let me die at your hands, and then I'll figure out what to do.
See, I wouldn't do that because I don't want to deflate the tension that I'm enjoying, because that's part of the experience.
Do you enjoy the tension though? A lot of people don't.
I enjoy tense horror like that. I'm not a big fan of jump scares in situations where I know it's building up to a jump scare.
Yeah.
Like I can't play Five Nights at Freddy's games. It makes me too anxious. I don't like the game that goes, "Oh, a jump scare is going to happen any second now. You'll never know." But if I'm genuinely surprised by a jump scare, like I had no idea one was about to happen, then I'll go, "Ugh," and I'll go, "Oh, well played, game.
You got me." Yeah.
100%.
I liked. I feel like in a post Souls world, a couple games handled that same idea of like you need to trek back to your body to get your things in some interesting ways that made and that were like thematic with the worlds of those games. Like specifically, there's that Zombie U game. I think it was a Wii U launch game from Ubisoft. That was like a first-person zombie survival game, and you had to like scrounge around for loot and for weapons and stuff like that. And then if you died, you became another survivor, but you could get your stuff back, your bag back. But when you got back there, your old character was a zombie in that room, and so you would you would be like, oh, I have to kill my previous character with an axe or run around them and steal get my bag back.
I do like a failure that sort of adds a bit more, another layer of gameplay onto the game. Like,
and then
like I was talking about how in Half-Life I used to like accidentally hit the right mouse button and launch a contact grenade that blew off half my health, and I'd sort of almost relish when that happened.
Yeah,
I'd be like okay, time to take aboard this new complication.
I have to like really plug in and deal with this. And then the other one that deals with it in a different way, but I thought was really neat, was Sifu the other year, which the whole conceit is that you have that magical talisman that every time you die in combat, you age. And then you can pop back up, but you're a little bit older, which means you can do certain things, and maybe you're a little bit stronger. But as you get older and older, you might get a little bit slower, and you can't do certain moves anymore.
There's an argument to be made that we're talking about failure as like a death state and a failure state, but momentary failure is also an interesting outcome to think about. Call of Duty Ghosts, not Ghosts. What's the one that they go to space with Kit Harington? Infinite Warfare.
Yeah.
If I believe on the hardest setting with that one, your individual limbs and eyeballs can get damaged, and you will lose the ability to use them as you're fighting. So like your arm can get shot, and you can no longer reload properly, and one of your eyes can get shot out. It's incredible.
Sort of Robertson's Requiem.
Yeah, it's some of the most, and I think there's a video in this, because I think Call of Duty in a lot of their hardcore modes for their stories have been doing some really interesting things that people are just sleeping on, because they're just like, oh, it's Call of Duty, you know. But I played it with a friend because he was like, no, seriously, you need to take a look at this. The design of it is so unique. I'd never heard of it. So like those momentary failure moments of how your small failures through gameplay affect how you progress is super beautiful.
Yeah, what was the eye thing reminded me of, I think it's in Metal Gear Solid 3, Big Boss gets his eye cut out or shot out or something, and then for the rest of the game you only have if you go into like first person mode, you only see like there's like a blank spot here, so like you go to aim and you kind of only have part of the screen left. It was sticking on Metal Gear, but going back when we were talking earlier about games where you have to kind of deal with if you lost a boss fight or something, you have to deal with it. I always liked that Metal Gear Solid 1, there's that torture segment where you have to like jam on the button quick enough, and you either survive the torture or you pass out. And either way, the game progresses. But if you survive the torture, Meryl lives, and if you pass out, Meryl's dead. And like the end of the game is different because it's like, well, forget about Meryl. Me and Otacon are buds for
I know. I mean, obviously, the ending they want you to get is Meryl surviving, but Otacon is the character who comes back in later games as Snake's like best bro.
Yeah, he's at your hip too. Yeah.
So retrospectively, I think the Otacon ending was the better ending.
Yeah.
Metal Gear Solid. Like, hey, who needs ladies? Let's go adopt a little girl and become hetero gay dads in the sky.
She'll make us eggs every day. It'll be great.
Yeah.
I always appreciate that. And even like, you know, as silly as the games are, I do like the David Cage model of rolling with the punches. Like if you fail a QTE, the game doesn't end. It's like, well, maybe that character dies, or maybe that character trips over a banana stand in a grocery store while running after a serial killer. Like,
oh, maybe it doesn't fucking matter.
Or maybe not.
Most of the time not. But I think like these things can encourage save scumming, and save scumming I don't think is necessarily the player's fault. I think it's how you frame your game and the consequences for failure. If they are either too harsh or too lackluster, you're going to encourage people to, you know, save scum and just reset. But if there's something interesting that happens from those, there's this consequence that is meaningful and engaging, people aren't going to want to do that. They'll want to see what and how it progresses, you know?
Yeah, I mean, my instinct is always in your games like Until Dawn and David Cage games is to win the QuickTime events. So, and it turns out I'm pretty good at QuickTime events, probably all those years playing Guitar Hero in my 20s. So I will never see the plot lines that emerge if you fail at some of those sequences, and you know those sequences are going to inevitably feel like a failure because you failed something to get them.
What about the kind of Until Dawn-y ones where it's like you have to make a decision that isn't necessarily like a black and white choice, and some characters might die and might not make it to the end of the game? Like,
well, that's not a failure, is it? That's a branch.
It's a branch, yeah, but if like in your mind you want a character to survive and you think you're making the decisions to have the character survive and then they don't.
See, the problem with that is in such games, the game usually makes it very hard to predict what choices are going to save a character and what was.
Yeah.
Have you ever played any of those fucking Dark Pictures anthology
Yeah.
games? I have got a fucking clue what decisions decide who survives to the end of like the second chapter of those, because it seems to be completely arbitrary whether failing a quick time event as that character kills them or not. So how would you how would you know what to, if you had, even if you had like a preferred outcome in mind, how would you know what to do to steer towards it?
I had this experience previewing a game. The embargo's done, so I can talk about it. I was playing Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 in Prague with the team, and it's the only instance I got frustrated where I failed like a voice check with a knight where I had insulted him and I had insulted my company by speaking out of turn, and I really wanted to make it up to the noble that I was with. So I went to them, was speaking to them, and they were like, "I'm really upset with you." And my dialogue options were between like, "Go fuck yourself," "I'm better than you," and effectively saying I'm sorry. And I picked the I'm sorry version, and he basically said, "Well, it's your fault though, isn't it though?" And I was like, "No, that's not what I'm saying. Oh my god." And then progressed the plot in that direction. I raised it with some of the devs, but it's sometimes really hard to actually understand what is going to be said unless they just verbatim write it out in text.
Yeah, it is funny, like in any medieval open world game where it's like I try to steal something in like a Skyrim or something. You try to steal something, and then someone's like, "Hey, what are you doing there?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, I didn't actually try to steal these apples from your house.
Forgive me.
Can I pay you money? Can you not call the cops?"
Yeah.
Oh, funny how that's come up lately. Shall we go to Super Chats?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well, they've got a lot of things.
A Labor
to bring
Day
up.
miracle.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, "You lot got any Dark Souls moments that feel good?" Yeah, because it's a good game.
I think two things in Dark Souls feel good: overcoming a tough fight, and then getting killed in a really funny way. I think whenever I get killed in a funny way, I'm like, hell yeah, Dark Souls.
I've got one.
I like that mod you can get for Dark Souls that changes the "you died" text to "thanks Obama." That makes me laugh.
I've got one which is from Bloodborne, is the Sackmen. If you die to the Sackmen in Cathedral Ward, they take you to the jail, and respawning in that jail and being in a completely new area blew my mind. It shouldn't, but because of the framing of the rest of the respawn system, that shift really left an impact on me.
They did that in Dark Souls 1 when you fail the first boss fight against Seath the Scaleless and then wake up in his dungeon.
Yeah, right. The Duke's Archives or whatever. Like you end up in the little, the circular place. Yeah, which I think is like really cool. Of being like, "Ooh, this is not what I thought was going to happen right now."
Ooh. What kind of wizard dragon can actually reset my spawn point? Oh, I'm up against something more powerful than I thought.
Man, getting to Seath is such a pain in the ass. Like I used to know that path, but now I just like the last time when we were replaying for Battle Masters, I was like, "Oh, I'll go a little bit further," and I got to that part. And I'm like, "I don't know where the fuck I'm going. How did I do this without a guide?"
Oh god.
The Merchant of Life gives £5 and says the Nemesis system for Shadow of Mordor / Shadow of Mordor was great for making deaths feel rewarding. Yeah, pity they fucking patented it, isn't it? And now
don't worry, the Wonder Woman game coming any day now.
Oh,
it'll be
God.
back with Wonder Woman.
See, this is why licensed games kind of shit, because games take so long to make these days. You don't know if the property you're adapting is even going to be relevant by the time the game comes out.
I mean, that's a whole other topic for another day. But yeah, seeing
that's why there's so many. That's why there's so many fucking Star Wars games now, isn't there? Because we're never seeing the back of that. That's forever relevant.
Well, and even like Concord coming out, which was like clearly went into development when Overwatch became big, and it's like that's not that was 7 years ago. That was 8 years ago. However long ago. Like, ooh, that's not great. Yeah, bummer.
Dr. Theo gives $5 and says, "We're familiar with great idea, bad game, potential future podcast topic. What is a game that's a bad idea but turned out to be a good game?" I would say if you tried to give the elevator pitch for Papers, Please, it probably wouldn't sound like a good game.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then Lucas Pope proved us all wrong.
Oh, that's a really good question.
I'm trying to look at a list of some of my favorite games of the past couple of years and which ones like in
anything that's like a sim, any kind of sim. I'm just like, this is bad. Like, if you try and say Truck Simulator, we all know it to be entertaining and very popular to stream and stuff nowadays. But I think if you described that 15 years ago, people would be like, "What the fuck are you on about? That sounds grim."
You pick up some stuff, you drive to a place, you drop off the stuff, and listen to the radio.
Yeah.
Who would like a game like that, Yards?
I know. I mean, they made Desert Bus, and it was a joke.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm thinking a lot of indie games that have like the short and sweet indie games, unpacking. You're like, really? I want to play a game about where I'm just unpacking my house, and then I play it and it's like a 90-minute game. You're like, oh, this is actually really good.
Speakeasy says Power Wash, like Power Wash Sim.
That's a good idea.
I can see. If you describe that to me, I could tell you why that would be satisfying, because power washing is inherently satisfying, like taking away the grime and layers and stuff. So I could see that translating into a game quite well.
I reviewed Crime Scene Cleaner recently, and that's got a power washer, but power washer kind of sucks. And it's kind of better to stick to the mop and the scrub daddy.
Oh, fuck.
Which you probably wouldn't expect so much. There's something weirdly satisfying about having to mop the floors and deal with like a resource management thing where the water gradually gets bloodier and bloodier. You have to tip it out and change to a new bucket of water.
Yeah.
It was like, yes, this is me working 9 to 5 in a very efficient way.
Yeah.
Sort of adds to the verisimilitude.
Oh, yes.
Anyway.
The
big V.
Jackson Jewel, member for 9 months, says, hopefully this makes me feel good. Mortimer emoji.
You're not a failure at all.
Dale Mallows gives $2 and says, hang on, gotta take a she, which was apparently their 20th super, so that's one for go down in the annals of history.
More like the annals.
How was it? Please donate again to tell us how it was.
Yes. Fox D gives $5 and says, failure to appreciate the failure state is why Sims 4 is dull as dishwater, but Sims 2 is an all-time classic for emergent gameplay. I remember Sims going sort of downhill from 2 onwards. Mostly, I mostly put that down to EA trying to turn that into micropayment machines.
And just like a million different...
Carve out all the DLCs.
Expansions and shit.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, because in Sims 2, they was like all in there from the start. You could play as normal people, or you could play as zombies, or you could play as aliens, or all kinds of things.
And so, I didn't continue. I played The Sims 1 and 2 quite a bit, but didn't continue after that. So I don't know if what they're sort of directly saying is like, as it went on, did it become kind of like more casual and less friction against failure? Whereas at the beginning, it did feel like, oh, I need to actually pay attention to this, or else my family will die.
Yeah, I guess they were a lot more easygoing about people dying from house fires and drowning in their swimming pools after a while, I suppose.
Yeah.
People get attached. Them housebound spouses get attached to their Sims in their little dollhouse.
Also, college students got attached to the Sims. That was me. Who needs to go to class when I got my Sims?
Yeah. That's successful game.
When I was younger, every now and again, I'd remember I had The Sims and think, I'm going to reinstall that and play it. And I'd play it like solidly for like 2 days till I'm like seeing stars and genuinely for a moment thinking that I've got a hunger meter of my own because I was feeling a bit hungry. And then like I'd stop playing and then never touch it again.
It's dangerous. There are a lot of games like Stardew's that I introduced previous partner of mine to Stardew, and she played it for like 30 hours straight without sleeping, and then put the Switch down and said, I'm never touching that game again. It's dangerous. It was a crazy to watch. It was insane.
Faz gives £4.99 and says, thanks for your recommendation of Licorice Recoil, Marty. Been binging it this weekend. Good quality. Love everyone's work as always. I've never heard of that, Marty.
It's an anime. Sorry.
Oh, well,
what's it about?
Well, that'll be why.
It's about like a sort of like a somewhat modern day Tokyo that is relatively crime free because of this group of almost like a group of assassins from the government that are these like high school girls who almost precog crime out of existence. And so they'll like assassinate a bad guy before he goes to like rob a woman, and she'll never know because they just walk up behind him and like shoot him.
Why is it called Licorice Recoil?
Is there any premise Japanese anime won't reframe through the filter of schoolgirls?
No.
So it's Minority Report
with schoolgirls. Yeah,
a little bit, yeah. But then it also feels slice of life because they kind of live and work at a cafe. It's very nice.
yeah.
While also being assassins and schoolgirls.
Yeah.
It's always fucking slice of life schoolgirls, but through the filter of something else.
Yeah.
Oh my god, Japan.
Why is it called Licorice Recoil? Why was that other anime called Bubblegum Crisis? Why is any anime called what it's called?
So it's not like licorice. It's Lycoris, which I don't know. Like the licorice is the name of the group. Maybe Recoil because of a gun. I don't know why any of my anime are named anything except Delicious and Dungeon because they go into dungeons and they make delicious food. That one's
that makes sense.
Well, that's not the original Japanese name, is it? The original name is something like Dungeon Meshi.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
Does that translate?
What is a Neon Genesis Evangelion? God knows. Great show.
Well, it's a neon version of Phil Collins's band that really wants you to hear about Jesus.
Also JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. They are all JoJo's, and the adventure is certainly bizarre.
Real strange adventure.
Okay, apparently Dungeon Meshi just literally translates to delicious dungeon, according to the chat.
It's fair.
Various other things. Tommy Salty gives 10 PLNs and says, "Make failure feel good. My mum would love to know."
No one's a failure here.
Is that a self-effacing thing, or are you like talking shit about your mum, Tommy Salty?
Either or. Stop it. Be good to your mum. Be good to yourself.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, "Cuphead's progress bar at every death's kind of nice. That's just a health bar they don't show you till you die. Surely."
No, that's like a level progress thing, right? I guess that is a health bar. Yeah, so
it's basically as much progress you made in the boss, be it a platforming one or a boss health bar. They show you that progression once you die. So I agree with Yahtzee. It's basically just like a hidden health bar that they show you at the end that they keep track of.
Yeah, I think it's nice because on death you're like, oh, I was close, as opposed to, oh, I was not close at all. Because I think sometimes a health bar, if I get an enemy down to low health, I start wilding out. Like, I start playing poorly.
I speak about that in my health bar episode. Yeah.
That's the classic mistake. You got greedy because they were low. You thought, I'll just finish this off quick, and then smash, and you did.
Yep.
Yeah.
Longshanks gives £10 and says, "Black Myth Wukong has no punishment upon death, which for a Souls-like was so unexpected to me. I spent 5 minutes trying to figure out what I had lost. I now feel more relaxed while playing."
So if there's no punishment on death, it's not a Souls-like, right?
Yeah, I noticed that. Although you do get an Estus flask that refills the checkpoints, and all the enemies respawn when you do that. So it's a quasi Souls-like, maybe, if you like. It's
if it's like on the spectrum, it's not as much of a Souls-like as like Lords of the Fallen, but
yeah, I'm not convinced that having to run back to your previous self's bloodstain is like the characteristic of a Souls-like. The way, improving your character is what defines a role-playing game.
I don't know. Can you think of a Souls-like where you don't do that?
What, Black Myth Wukong?
Well, that's the one we're arguing about.
It's undeniably a Souls-like, though.
What is it? Why isn't it just an action game?
Sekiro? You don't go back to your soul?
Because you've got because A, you've got an Estus flask. B, the game is built around, a sequence of boss fights. And C, it just is. Eat my ass.
He got you there, dude.
Dark Souls did create the idea of a sequence of boss fights. Mega Man, my favorite Souls-like. Mega Man's got E-tanks. Mega Man's a Souls-like.
Oh my god.
You go into an environment, you explore the area, you fight a lot of standard enemies, and after a while you find a boss door that leads into a boss fight.
Super Metroid.
Genres, man. Genres are just absolute horse shit.
I agree.
All right, fine, whatever. Fox D gives $5 and says, "You must fail battles only work if they don't feel cheap. Fallout 3's The Pit comes to mind. Grab the idiot ball and walk into an ambush because game."
The idiot ball.
Yeah, the idiot ball. That's a concept I've heard of.
What is the idiot ball?
Well, in terms of plot writing, the idiot ball is the ball you hold that magically turns you into an idiot for the sake of continuing the plot.
Plot convenience.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Really funny.
It's saying, I've accidentally forgot to do the killing blow on this boss, and now they got up and ran away, and we have to fight them again 9 more times.
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, the protagonist was holding the idiot ball.
Fucking.
See also family brain cell.
Ooh, I like that.
It's a problem with dramatic irony as well. Like if the audience know things the characters don't, you instantly start going, well, why aren't you doing this? Or like, you should be doing this.
Yeah.
You know, but it's like they don't have that information, or they're holding the idiot ball, like you said.
Margaret Selman gives $5 and says, "Tales of Symphonia has a fight you're not supposed to win, but you can win it. If you do, the game treats it as though the character was holding back." Oh, that old
funny.
chestnut. I like how when I used to like play a lot of Spider-Man 2, the movie game, and they make a big thing in that game, like, oh, it's all right, Spider-Man's pulling his punches so he doesn't obliterate the skulls of the standard humans he's fighting. And when I heard that, which I think was in like one of those Bruce Campbell voiced like extra tutorial dialogues, I was like, right, grab the nearest thug, web swung up to the top of the Empire State Building, and then just kicked them off into space. And I was like, pull that punch, asshole.
Gravity's not going to pull their
I will kill you.
Well, if you watch carefully playing like the new Spider-Man sandbox games, if you do that, they'll like get webbed to the nearest wall.
Yeah.
Although I think if you try hard enough, you can probably hurl someone a fatal distance.
That'll be the next Battle Masters. How quickly can you kill someone as Spider-Man?
Yeah.
And you have to explain how they're dead.
Like, actual murder.
Yeah. You'd need a panel of judges for that one.
That'd be great.
TM558 gives $20 and says, "I always liked the suicide option in Consuming Shadow. I liked the idea of your character slowly being driven mad against the cosmic force they're up against, or that they just say fuck this right from the beginning." Right. This is a plug for my game, so I need to explain this for the majority of people who didn't buy that game. It's like a Lovecraftian roguelike, and at the start of the game, you have the option to either press the button that says start the game, or press the button that says kill yourself. And if you press the kill yourself button, your character shoots themselves in the head. But as you proceed through the game, you have a sanity meter. And the sanity meter goes down as you fight enemies and do the standard stuff in the game. And once your sanity gets low enough, then while you're going through the standard menus in the game, occasionally the buttons you're about to click on just changes to kill yourself. And if you get really insane, like the kill yourself button is just flickering constantly through your GUIs, so it gets easier and easier to accidentally click it at the moment when it says kill yourself.
Oh my god. I like that.
Absolutely love it.
Yeah. You have to play a little mini game where you have to like mash the click button to like pull the gun away from your head, and the more times you have to do the mini game in a run, the harder it gets.
That's incredible. That's good shit.
Yeah.
Yes. I've been thinking a long time about remaking Consuming Shadow, because I like to think there's a lot of strong design choices in it.
It sounds cool.
That's an incredible core idea.
Even though it kind of looks like shit.
When did you make that?
That was like my big project before Star Trek Vagabond. So when did that come out? It would have been probably in the early 20-teens. Okay. 9 years ago. Thank you, Eric Weigard.
Eric's your personal historian.
Yeah. Or you could just, look it up on Steam.
Yeah.
I'm selling it for $1 these days because I concede it kind of looks like crap, and I wanted to get some goodwill under the belt for Star Trek Vagabond.
Go get it, guys!
Buy the Consuming Shadow for $1 and then pay full price for Star Trek Vagabond. It's good. Yeah. Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, "Games letting you skip levels if you fail too much." See, I hate when a game does that. I feel patronized.
Yeah. I had that experience today.
Yeah. It's like if you fail enough times in a level in one of the new Mario Brothers, they just give you an invincibility star at the start of the level. It just feels like the game's like just sort of batted your hand away from the controls and said, "Come on, I'll do it."
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one today which was playing the VR like puzzle games with my mum, and we were playing the Seventh Guest, I think it's called.
Oh yeah.
And within that you have this like Ouija board, and you can collect coins that allow you to get hints and then to a certain point skip entire puzzles. And I'd be like trying to do it.
If you take too many hints, the game just skips the puzzle.
Yeah, my mom was like, I walked into the because I was playing, and I walked in, saw a puzzle, and she was like, "Oh, yeah, I did this one. You should go to the Ouija board and skip it." And I'm like, "No, like I haven't even tried yet." And she's like,
That's
"Yeah,
really
but
funny.
the Ouija board will just tell you what to do." And I'm like, "Mum, like, let me look at the puzzle."
There was a classic design fuck up in the original release of the Seventh Guest, because there's a puzzle towards the end of the game that's like a sort of chess-like match against an AI, but the difficulty of the AI increases based on the processor power of your computer. So if you were playing on a modern computer, like a few years down the line, it was basically impossible.
Against the supercomputer?
So yeah, we're playing against Deep Blue.
That's incredible. I love that.
I love that so
That's
much.
really funny.
Oh, God.
If you play it on Switch, the thing doesn't even understand. It's just checkers.
It's the exact reason they can't port Bloodborne to PC is because the AI gets too strong. Just one shots.
Too strong.
You should never design things, gameplay elements based around processing power. Like Sierra made that mistake a few times with some of their adventure games as well.
Really fun.
Like there's a sequence in Space Quest 4 you literally can't, like it goes by far too fast for you to beat if your computer's too good. Gives 199 and says, "I heard FF6 mentioned."
I did mention it. What a game. You could suplex an entire train in that game.
What?
Yeah.
It's true.
Suplex
One of your characters has the ability to suplex the enemy, and for some reason the designers neglected to remove that ability when you're fighting a giant train.
Yeah, it's a ghost train that the ghosts of your
suplex a ghost train. I need to go through and play the Final Fantasy games. Like,
I liked Final Fantasy VI. It was on the list of options when we did the last summer drought vote. I wish they'd gone for it. I would have liked to talk about Final Fantasy VI
next year, guys.
Anyway,
get a cool Final Fantasy VI pin for next year. That'll be sick.
There you go. Me dressed as the main female character in that game. Yeah. Or like a Moogle.
Oh, that'd be good.
Fate gives 20 chuffs. I don't think I've seen that currency before.
Fatty gives 20 chuffs.
Yeah. Fatty gives us 20 chuffs.
Swiss francs.
Oh, okay.
I prefer chuffs.
After listening for a couple of years, I finally caught you guys live, though I will listen to the whole thing later at work. Thanks for keeping me company on many a lonely night shift. Cheers, lads.
You're welcome, boss.
Thank you. Thank you for your chuffs.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, "Are second screen games same as cozy stroke chill out games?" Well, often, not necessarily, I'd say. I mean, I consider most cozy games that I play to be second screen games. If I'm playing Stardew Valley or Valley Peaks or something like that, I'll be having my video essay on in the other window.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think certain elements of games can be second screen games, but the games themselves aren't always. If I'm replaying or playing like an RPG, I'll grind a lot second screen. But when I'm doing story stuff, I'll be paying attention. But if I'm I just want to futz around this area and grind mementos or something, I could do that while watching a basketball game.
Yeah, I find games like Stanley Parable and Beginner's Guide to be pretty cozy chill out experiences, but they're not second screen games because you got to pay attention to the dialogue.
Yeah.
For me, it's like in what degree do you define second screen? Because there are games like Stardew where I feel like I need to pay attention. I'm just one of those people who needs to focus on the thing I'm currently playing. I find it hard to listen to other things while I'm doing that. But there are also games like Rusty's Retirement, which is a game that plays itself effectively, a la Stardew Valley, but takes place at the bottom of your screen. So or on the other screen where you don't need to pay your full attention to it. And I play that game sometimes when I'm scripting. Just have it on the other monitor, farming away while I'm typing.
Yeah, and it's just a nice thing to look at too. Like the animations of that are just great.
Progress.
Yeah, Rusty's Retirement's great.
Yeah, fantastic game.
See, would I like that? Because I'm not a fan of idle stroke clicker games.
There's lots of stuff to do, and there's lots of decision making, but it's one of those things where you can make your decisions, allow your harvest to grow over a specific amount of time. Then, like Eric is showing in the video, go back to scripting, go back to doing what you're doing, and then come back and maybe plant some more crops and stuff. There's lots to do. It's way less idle than I think people assume it is.
It's also strange because it's in the same. It's by the same developer and in the same world as that Haiku the Robot, which was just a take on Hollow Knight.
That was just Metroidvania, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Also, the dev's a fan of our stuff.
Yeah.
We were. Hello, if you're watching, come on DevHead sometime.
Hell yeah, we'll set it up.
Connor Stillwell gives £5 and says, Yahtzee's issues with Souls-like bosses is why I quit Lies of P after a while. I stopped thinking, and started thinking, finally. Yeah, I think that's...
It might also be like what point of your life you're at. Like if you got a bunch of free time, you're like, fuck it, we're going to roll through some stuff. You might not care. Whereas if you only have a finite amount of hours to play games a week, then you might not want to spend it bashing your head against the wall.
And is it the game's duty to shift that design to suit more people, or is it the player's duty to just pick games that will suit their playstyle on their time?
That's a great point.
I've more come to terms with the fact that I'm not going to finish most of the games I play for review these days.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to focus more on the vertical slice experience, I suppose.
Yeah.
Although I did finish Star Wars Outlaws, surprisingly short for an open world game, that one.
How long was it?
Sticking to critical path, I would say you could probably knock it out in 3 afternoon sessions. I think that's what I did.
Wow.
But what if we want to spend hours having meals with our small friend Nix? Is that his name? Nix?
Well, not wishing to spoil my upcoming review, why would you want to do that?
Because he's cute and he needs a meal.
Well, you can't just keep feeding him. He would explode.
Oh no! Was he like a gremlin? We feed him after midnight.
Help PMB gives £10 and says, I love Spectacular Failure, DF / Rimworld Death Spirals, or the farce in Disco Elysium. Burnout turned the failure state of crashing in a racing game into the best part in a literally spectacular way.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, that's both of those are really good points. Yeah.
That's one of the things I loved about Driver San Francisco, in that you could have an incredibly destructive peel out and failure, but then instantly get back in the driving seat with the weird possession powers. That's the one where you
play as a ghost, right?
Yes. You play as a ghost who could possess any driver on the road, and I'm surprised
no other game blew my mind.
I think more games need to embrace that mechanic.
Ghosts.
Like imagine if you were playing something like Hitman, where if you royally fucked up and the cock-up cascade began, you could just go, well, screw this popsicle stand and just possess someone else.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, I think Hitman would be quite ruined if you could possess people. There's getting the outfits and navigating that. If you could just become them, I think the game would be. What if
that's what Elden Ring became? Where it's like, I can't get past Radahn, so I'm just him now.
I'm just going to become it.
I'm going to just wait in my festival and ride my small horse around.
More Ghost games for sure. I agree.
Yeah. Ghost games that was the main mechanic in Messiah, wasn't it? You played a little cherub who could possess other players.
Yeah, like Geist, good Ghost game there. Psyops, just use your little brain powers. That was more like telekinesis, but still.
The Ghost movie tie-in with Whoopi Goldberg.
Yeah.
Yes. And Patrick Swayze.
Yeah.
Fox D gives $5 and says, imagine the Stanley Parables narrator describing the uninstall your own CPU non-standard game over from Nier Automata. That would be the holy fail.
Oh God.
Yeah. he'd probably get very sarcastic at you.
We got another one coming up about Nier, so I don't want to jump on it yet. But Nier,
you don't want to blow your load.
The game Nier is.
Party Pirate, member for 2 months in the Green Gang. What about group failure like in Chained Together?
Yeah, that was great feeling failure. Yeah.
I love
It was really
blaming
hard.
Nick for falling. It's my
Well,
favorite
you
part.
say that, but it was hard to pinpoint who was at fault anytime it happened.
100%, yeah.
I mean, Nick's not here, so maybe we could just say it was Nick's fault.
Yeah, all right. It was always Nick's fault. Everything's Nick's
Definitely
fault.
none of us when we had clear view of it being one of our faults. Definitely wasn't our fault.
Never ever.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says DDLC's Suicide, Doki Doki Literature Club Suicide felt like a fail, even if scripted. Yeah, that's sort of a time loop game, isn't it? The game has to keep resetting itself and trying to fix itself every time something fucks up. That's the plot.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess those, like, again, those are almost things where, like, the first loop of Outer Wilds, the sun going supernova is a terrifying prospect.
Yeah.
Whereas as you move on, it becomes less and less scary, and you kind of come to terms with it.
It helps if you're actually looking at the sun when it goes supernova. I mean, chances are good you're probably just exploring a cavern somewhere, and then you just go, "Oh, I died somehow."
Everything's rumbling, and I'm dead. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's how you frame it. I can't think of Doki Doki. The last time I played it, I was doing a 24-hour charity stream, so it's like a fucking fever dream to me. That game doesn't exist in my mind.
Yeah, it turns out the best way to play a game isn't by live streaming yourself playing it through its entirety and then going through the entire video making process.
Yeah, no, that's not a good. I won't be doing that again unless I ever need to fund getting Ludo to America. Then I'll do it again. But that's the only other option.
I feel like you need to pick a game you pay less attention to.
Yeah, and less of a mind fuck.
Yeah, less something that you need to read. Yeah,
it was really good though. I loved it.
Yeah, I want to go back. They the special edition or something came out that added some stuff to it, and I never went back and played that version. So. Oh
yeah. Well, I know the plot twist now. I can't imagine they would have added much.
I know the plot twist, but it also came out like 6 or 7 years ago, and I don't remember a lot of the other stuff surrounding the plot twist, and so that's where one of those times where having a bad memory comes in handy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could forget all the answers in Return of the Obra Dinn so I could have the fun of figuring it all out again.
I feel like I kind of forgot. Like, I remember some of the twists of like, oh, this is the thing that happened. I didn't expect this on the ship.
I remember the first time you entered someone's death and there was a motherfucking kraken attacking the crew.
Yeah, you're like,
I haven't finished that. I loved what I've played of it, but I haven't finished it. We should stream it.
Yeah.
We should do a stream.
Yes. Let us vicariously live through you solving the puzzles.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it. Sign me up.
Mr. Sadface gives $2 and says, a Resi stroke from soft You Died is better than Mario's Too Bad. I remember the most frustrated I ever got as a kid playing video games was playing Mario Sunshine and trying to get through one of those fucking floodless levels that feel like a Mario Galaxy level in retrospect. Yeah, and I'd failed like the umpteenth time, and then they played that fucking Too Bad animation with the little hilarious trumpet, and I threw something at the wall because that fucking sound, because that fucking music.
They need to do the Metal Gear thing where you just have a random character from the Mushroom Kingdom go, Mario, Mario, Mario.
The ones that are designed to piss you off, I know of a few. I'm trying to remember them, but there are some that are just like actively taking the piss.
Yeah,
I love that. I absolutely love it. It does the opposite for me. It gives me levity. Get fucked.
Thank you very much, Eric. That's the very one. Tsunami Dusha gives $40 and says, making up for last week. Also, $40 as I turn 40 years old. Woo! Salute. Have a good holiday, everyone.
HB Day, Tsunami Dusha.
Man,
I'm not far behind 40.
You're almost as old as me, Tsunami Dusha.
Oh, God. Maybe next year I'll be as old as you. Give him a little time.
That's not how it works.
Oh, no.
I'm 41.
Oh, my God.
When did that happen?
About
your birthday? Your most
now?
recent birthday?
Yes, that would be it. Thank you. I did wonder. Subverting gives €20 and says, probably an obvious thing, but nothing makes failure feel bad worse than having to do a bunch of boring, repetitive things to get back to where I was. Like climbing long ladders every time I'm trying to get back to the boss, etc. Yes, that's why it sucks that not every game has an autosave, even in this day and age.
Yeah, what was I playing
I
recently?
remember playing Subnautica Below Zero, and for some reason it just doesn't have an autosave. So I'd like die, and it was like suddenly it was like 4 hours ago.
Oh,
Yeah, I think when I was almost all the games I'm replaying for the archive don't have autosaves, so I need to like retrain myself to be like just constantly save, constantly save.
Yeah,
yeah, Ori
Like
in the
blind-
Blind Forest.
Yeah,
playing the original Quake, just map quick save to the middle mouse button or something.
yeah, just constantly hitting it.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says Spec Ops' loading messages felt like you are a failure.
I like
Yeah,
those.
and then you shoot yourself in the end.
Yeah.
At least you succeeded at one thing,
Yeah.
dumbass.
What a game.
I imagine if he shot but like accidentally missed the vital part of his brain and was just crippled for life.
Just in was that Fight Club? He tries to like shoot himself
No.
in the head and shoots his.
Now that'd be a slow cap situation.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good at all.
Jules Rowe gives €3 and says, just some money for you beautiful blokes. Mwah. Hehe.
Oh, thanks, Jewel.
Thank you so much.
And then Fox D gives $5 and says, I explained to my boss that I'm taking vacation time to do the Cruising Arkansas event for American Truck Simulator soon, and he just laughed and approved.
Hell yeah. More power to you.
I like Cruising Arkansas. How that just remember how they had those like Cruising USA and Cruising the World games? Yeah. I'm just like picturing a world where those kept coming out and just got more and more specific, and so it was like Cruising Arkansas,
Cruising Wisconsin.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Played every day.
Marty, you're an American. Explain this to me. Arkansas pronounced Arkansas. Kansas pronounced Kansas.
Yep.
Over to you.
Can't explain that at all. It is genuinely madness. American English is a terrible language. Just like bad.
It sure is. Did I mention I learned how to memorize each American state recently?
Right.
Yes, I made it.
You've got a special way of doing it, don't you?
Yes, I've got I made a little video that I'm not sure what we're going to do with at this point, in which I explained my whole methods.
In the Snapchat, didn't you? I need to go watch that.
Yeah, go have a look. A lot of it comes down to the fact that there's those middle states that look like a baker holding a tray.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, man.
I tend to separate it into the states to the left of the baker and the states to the right of the baker.
I don't know why me opening it and seeing that it's 8.5 minutes long just like tickled me pink.
Well,
I'm gonna get some info here.
Well, it's 50 fucking states, man. It's a long...
Yeah, no, dude, I'm with you. I can barely remember this is who I am.
I feel like it's going to be good for you, Jay, because you're going to have to learn these states.
Yeah, because I'm in it. I'm not going to have to remember anything from apart from where I am.
I mean, I was about to say, if you want to be a real American, just learn your state and then like 3 states near it in California and New York. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'll learn Massachusetts, Connecticut, and whatever else is close.
Rhode Island, New York, Vermont.
Those could be the confusing ones.
Rhode Island a state?
Rhode Island's a state. Yeah.
It's between Connecticut. It's between Connecticut and Massachusetts. It's also the smallest state.
It's not an island?
No. Well, part of it is.
I was just about to say who the fuck founded your country, but it was us. So
yeah. Well, us and the Spanish and the Dutch.
Well, that's where it all went wrong. You know?
Yeah.
Out to the Dutch.
The book to hear the Dunkel Heights gives €2 and says, what kind of super chats are your favorites? Well, mine are the deep red ones where we get lots of money.
Yeah, I mean, the selfish answer is the deep red ones. Honestly,
I kind of zone out while I'm reading them out. I don't give a shit where you actually write in them.
I like ones that contribute something to the topic that we hadn't already talked about, which can be hard because sometimes you send something and a half an hour later we talk about it and then Yahtzee makes fun of you. I also like a good goof, but I don't like a bad goof. So it needs to be a good goof. I also like the ones where there's no message and then Yahtzee says nothing. I like those.
Just the ones that give more food for thought on a topic, especially when they're asking deep stuff that we can really sink our teeth into. I really enjoy that.
Yeah. Fill my ass up gives 50 Norwegian kroner.
And says Phil as well.
And says XCOM handles failure quite well. With each dead soldier can just add to the story of the game if you decide to own it. Jay, did you ever play an old British game called Cannon Fodder?
No.
I played it on the Amiga. It's like a top-down shooter where you control a squad of 4 dudes.
Cannon
But every
fodder on the
time, like,
Amiga.
every time like your dudes die, you get a new squad with different names. And when you go to like the mission select screen, there's like 4 new gravestones have been added to the hill in the background.
Even those like simple like
yeah
contextual things, it's just so good.
Yeah,
I love it. We need more of it.
Yeah, that kind of ties into that stuff last week where we were talking about creating challenges for ourselves. Where like permadeath always kind of worries me. Like I can't handle permadeath in like in a Fire Emblem game. Like I don't want any of my
like
cool kids.
You can handle it in the sense of you can have permadeath, but still keep progression and the mechanical progress of the game by framing it with these people are dying, not necessarily you mechanically and your progression through the story, but the soldiers or the team that you had are dead, and building that emotional attachment to them can create much more impactful and emotionally driven gameplay scenarios.
Yeah, as we say, XCOM does that pretty well.
Yeah. And through naming them yourself and giving them your own personalities rather than
I just chew through them too quickly. It does. There's not much point in giving them names. Just go with the defaults.
Cannon fodder.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Connor Stillwell gives £2 and says The Sims is Yahtzee's sandwich toaster. Yeah, I did the same thing with my sandwich toaster back in the day as well. Every now and again, I notice it on a shelf and go, "Ooh, I'd really like a toasted sandwich." And then never touch it again for like 8 months.
It's probably when I put stuff like that in my basement, I'm like, I'm never going to use this again. Like it needs, if it's not in my kitchen, I'm going to forget it exists.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
You not in your butt, Dovey?
Same. What?
Is this why you smell like poo when you lick my face?
Same. What? What are we talking
about? Get me out of here.
Old, like you've never let your dog lick your face, knowing full well.
Ludo licks my face all the time.
Yeah.
Knowing full well that dogs nosh their butts on a regular basis.
In England, dogs don't have butts.
No, that's true. Yeah, I have to squeeze it out of her tail like a froob.
Toothpaste?
Yeah. Oh, I guess you guys won't know what froobs are. Yeah, toothpaste.
What's a froob?
Froob is like Eric, pull up a picture of an English froob. They're like yogurt, I guess, tubes that you like squirt.
We have that. You know what it's called in America? Go-gurt, because you take it on the go.
Oh, okay, that's a better name.
Little go-gurt, yeah.
But it wouldn't work in British because the British say yogurt rather than yogurt.
It'd be go-gurt.
Goggurt.
Goggurt.
Goggurt. Give me a
my favorite Dark Souls NPC, Goggurt.
Oh, God.
Sadarak1980 gives £2 and says, Nier Automata, fun to find ways to end game early. Yes.
Yeah, and that's one of those to where it has a bunch of goof endings to where you can like remove your operating system from a menu screen and your character just dies. And the game
that was
their 26 endings like that.
One of the thrusts of the Sierra adventure games as well was finding all the goofy deaths in those games.
Yeah,
and the
sounds really cool.
Little sarcastic lines of text the game would present every time it happened.
Yeah,
I've got a relevant thing. I spoke about this in my episode on death as well. I haven't experienced any of those cool things because how they managed death in their tutorial made me not want to play the game.
Oh, that you have to go through the entirety of the tutorial without.
And if you die to the boss because you don't know how to play because it's the fucking tutorial, you reset back to the beginning. And I'm like, I did that twice, and I was like, I'm gonna go do anything else. Thanks.
Yeah, it's really bad. It's like shockingly bad.
And I know it's a good game. I've heard it from many people. I just don't have the patience to get through that tutorial. I've got better shit to be doing, like froobing out dog poo. I don't know.
Froobing out Ludos.
Well, it seems Toffee's butt has been sufficiently noshed.
That's tough. Nier is also one of those games that has the sort of the recursive element to where when you die, your robot's AI is sent back up to the mothership and it's just 3D printed a new body, so you can go back to your old body to like get the shit that you
super
lost.
Cool.
You know what game has a cool death mechanic that we didn't talk about, and I played it on easy, so I just didn't die a lot, was Death Stranding. Because when you die, a fucking nuke goes off, and there's just a giant crater there in the world. And it's like sometimes that crater appears in other people's games, and the crater will like spawn harder enemies that will appear in other people's games as well. Guys, Kojima, he's going.
Kojima, what is he doing? I mean, I respect it, but
loves
just generally, what is he doing?
Yeah,
it goes. So Kojima, what are we going to do with our death state, our failure state? What should we do? And he's like, nuke.
Yeah,
they're like, what? And he's like, just put a nuke, multiplayer nuke.
Yeah.
Kojima likes nukes. What of it?
He is obsessed with them. Yeah.
Hey, man likes nukes.
SVS Guru 2000 gives €11.15 and says, should a multi-stage boss battle restart at the beginning or after the last stage you completed? Well, you know my position on that, SVS Guru 2000.
Give the player the option.
I think there should at least, like, maybe you could, like, learn something that helps you speed through the first phase. Quick, smart.
Or what about last stage with a punishment? Maybe you, like, lose some of your dash.
Give the player the option, move in and say, if you remove half your health bar, we'll put them on second phase straight away.
I don't know about that. That's like immediately putting them on the back foot after they've already failed once.
Yeah, but give them the option. Then you can go through and not make any mistakes and get into second phase, or just allow them to skip it entirely. Do any of it.
Well, then let's just skip the whole game. Let's just chuck it in the bin and do something else.
Fuck it. If you don't want to do 2 phases, you fuck. Just put the controller down, mate.
I got shit to do.
Me too.
Ember White gives $5 and says, Marty, last week you mentioned Ulysses. Did you read it? If so, I'm so sorry. If not, do you have a favorite book you would recommend?
Truly a man for all seasons between Licorice Recoil and Ulysses. No, I attempted to read it. That and what was the other one? The David Foster Wallace one, Infinite Jest, are 2 books that were too much for me. I just don't think I'm smart enough for those. Do have I don't have like a single favorite book. I really like everything by Cormac McCarthy and Haruki Murakami. One of House of Leaves is a book that I recommend to a bunch of people. It's like a horror book where the actual book itself is a tangible object that you are rotating, and the text is getting smaller as a character is going down steps and everything. That's a really cool one. And
what's that called?
There's House of Leaves. There you go. Jess just screamed House of fucking Leaves. So there you go. That's definitely a Jess Core book. And then a book, one of my favorite books that I've never heard any human being talk about is called Flicker. And it's a like kind of fictional account of sort of like the history of movies, but weaving in this sort of haunted movie and a secret society and all this cool shit. So good stuff.
Cool.
Okay. I recommend How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Tsunami Duja gives $10 and says, in Resident Evil Outbreak, when you died as a survivor, you came back as a zombie and have a chance to kill your previous teammates. In turn, those teammates can kill you and take your items. Pity nobody played Resident Evil Outbreak, isn't it?
Yeah, I always heard this had really good ideas, but then, like, I don't know, it's multiplayer, so I'm not doing that.
It was a multiplayer-focused game on the PS2, I think, if memory serves.
Yeah, which was crazy.
Online multiplayer was not very well worked out in those days on the PS2.
The old days.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and says, achievements earned by failing, good or worthless? I think they can be funny.
Like achievements as in like actual like pop-up 10 gamer points achievements, or achievements
die like an absolute spaz. It's 10 gamer points.
Yeah, I like you've done something so dumb that like you thought enough outside the box for this to happen. Yeah,
pull the lever with the big sign over it saying, do not, whatever you do, pull this lever.
Yeah.
Yes, to earn the bad at following instructions achievement.
Did you have any did you put any thoughts into achievements in your game? Or do you I know you don't care about achievements, but did you put any thought into other people in it?
In Starstruck's achievements? Not particularly. I just made a list of, fairly basic milestones. And because
I don't think
people just sort of expect achievements these days.
Yeah.
They complain if you don't put them in.
I'd love to see how many people actually engage with it, though, because it's always such a small percentage of people that get like 100% or platinum things.
Yeah.
Those people tend to scream the loudest.
Like that.
Yeah. Cutie.
Anyway, King Dead 42 gives $2 and says, Battle Masters, most stylish murder in Spider-Man. Well, there you go.
Most stylish murder.
We'll add it to our list of Battle Masters ideas.
That could be fun.
We'd all have to have a copy of Spider-Man, and we'd all have to have the means to record gameplay footage of a PlayStation.
Mm-hmm.
It's on PC now. We can put it in the Steam account, I think.
True.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well, the first one is. I don't know if the second one is.
Second one isn't, but I believe Miles Morales is. But that's just glorified DLC.
I'd like a tourism episode of
just we have to present the most impressive picture postcard screenshot.
We've discussed that.
We talked about something like this. Yeah,
the prettiest
one that's more in the eye of the beholder. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that a large? Did you get a big honk outside?
I got a massive honk. It went directly into my ear canal. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Dobby's looking pretty precarious. I don't think he realizes that if he rolls off any further, he's going to fall off the cushion.
Oh no!
Sorry, Dov. Banin gives $5 and says, was Sifu's losing just makes you older mechanic mentioned? Yes, it was, Banin.
Mm-hmm.
As it's a core piece of gameplay, is that even a failure state?
Failing is a core piece of gameplay.
You lost your health to a point.
Yes.
You failed at staying alive.
You sacrificed your youth for revenge. Was it worth it?
Like you could say Mario going from tall Mario to short Mario is a failure state, right?
Was it worth it? Before you seek revenge, dig 2 graves, as they
Progressive
say.
steps in a failure state.
If you point one finger, you're pointing 5 back at you. No, that can't be it. That's too many fingers.
Yeah, that's too many fingers.
That was
3.
That was venturing on profound, though.
Also, does your thumb point backwards? Marty, do your thumbs go back?
Well, 3 point back at me and 1 points to Jesus up in the sky.
Oh my god. Who knew the hammer of the gun fingers is for pointing at Jesus?
I do like Jess saying if you dig a grave big enough, you can both get in it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, work smarter, not harder.
Yeah.
Counte gives €2 and says Arkham game over screens made failing fun. Yes,
fun.
I like those.
Yeah.
Very idiosyncratic as well.
Remind me.
That one. That's where the specific villain who killed you or their minion stands over your body. You get a point of view shot of them, and they say some kind of taunty line.
Oh
yeah, they step out of the darkness and they fucking kind of just roast you. Feels like a
wrestling.
Yes, I think my favorite one was it was in Arkham Knight, where if you get killed by a Riddler challenge, the Riddler comes on and goes, "Oh my god, I actually did it!" I mean, yes, of course, as expected.
Amazing.
Tinker gives $5 and says, what do you think about losing in an arcade where you really don't lose your progress but real life money instead?
Yeah, we mentioned at the top, but that was sort of the start of this all, which is how those games were designed. Which is funny to play some of those arcade games now on consoles and be like, oh wow, this Simpsons or Turtles beat 'em up was only 35 minutes long because they expected you to have to just keep plugging money in.
Yeah.
Fox D gives $5 and says, a goof for Marty. Dermatologists are the most impulsive doctors because they're always making rash decisions.
That's a good one. See, that's a good chat.
I'm gonna balance this out. Fuck you.
Wow.
Okay. So I was trying to think of another joke along the same lines, but none's leaping to mind right now.
Yeah. No rash jokes for you.
Except for the one that goes, what's the best thing about having sex with 28-year-olds?
No, this is going to be 28-year-olds. I don't want to finish this joke.
Oh, you ruined it.
Oh.
You ruined it when you started it.
You ruined it when you started it. You could have been why are proctologists so impulsive? Because they're all up in your ass.
Oh my god.
Is that impulsiveness though?
No, it's probably a different word I was looking for.
Yeah.
Probably a different word. I feel like there's something there about proctologists being all up in your ass.
Yeah. You could do a joke like, boy, that proctologist's a real taskmaster. He's always getting up my ass.
Ah!
People want to know the punchline to the joke, Yahtzee.
No, they don't.
They're asking.
You know the
for it.
punchline. Marty basically said it.
God damn.
Just put a pregnant
what's
pause in between 20 and 8.
Yeah, what's the
Nope,
best
not
thing about
really
having
pregnant.
sex with 28-year-olds? There's 20 of them. That's the joke.
Shouldn't be laughing.
Okay, here's a good one. Why was Jesus popular with women?
Why are we doing this? We're one super chat away from leaving.
Yeah, that's why I'm like killing time with jokes.
Well, wait, say it again. What? Rewind. What was it?
Why was Jesus popular with women?
I don't know.
Because he was hung like this.
That's a good one. See, that's nice. That's a nice one.
Anyway, Alex Armstrong gives $5 and says, how about a game concept super chat? An edutainment game using a mic to say RNG tongue twisters in wacky game shows to overcome fear of public speaking. Well, I've got one red flag on that, and that's a game that uses a mic.
Yeah.
Because they always suck and none of them work.
Yeah. Except for Lifeline. You remember Lifeline? No, it was really bad.
Accent
Survival horror game
man.
for the PS2 where you had to use a mic.
Yeah. There
Really
has
bad.
never been any mic-based game that has worked.
I like the idea.
Argue with me on this.
Okay.
Apparently, the new Call of Duty, you can take people hostage at gunpoint and then whisper into their ears.
The proximity chat there is fantastic.
Yeah.
I was discussing that with Tina and Mikey, and they were like, "That's a bad idea." I
That's
think
a terrible
Tina was
idea.
thinking it's a bad idea,
That is
and I
a
was like,
genuinely terrible idea.
"No, it's
Terrible.
great." And I said this to Tina, when has Call of Duty ever been worried about what people are saying in their chat? Ever?
That's true.
It creates great fun, like role playing moments. I think it's fantastic. If you don't like it, mute proximity chat. You know.
Fox D gives $10 and says, Jesus walks into a bar and the bartender says, what's got you so down? And Jesus says, I was giving it to Mary Magdalene last night and she kept screaming out my dad's name.
That's pretty funny. Pretty funny. Pretty good.
Oh god. We should have a joke stream where people just send jokes.
No, we should.
Well,
I'm
struggling with that whole problem you get when someone says tell a joke, and even though you've heard thousands upon thousands of jokes in your life, you suddenly can't summon any to mind. I need parameters. Give me like a parameter for a joke.
Type of, I don't like jokes aren't my preferred method of goof. I do reaction goofs. Impulse goofs.
So tell me
a
a joke about something. Ask me to tell a joke about something. And
Okay.
Say, okay, go on.
Tell a joke about tortoises.
Something
else. I don't know any tortoise jokes.
What about dogs? Tell me a joke about dogs.
Okay. Bloke walks into a bar with a crocodile on a leash. And the bartender says, you can't bring a dangerous animal in here. And the bloke goes, no, it's easy. He's tame. Look, watch this. And he whips his dick out, puts it in the crocodile's mouth, and then smashes a beer bottle over its head. And it doesn't do a thing. And the guy next to them at the bar says, hey, can I try that? And the bloke goes, be my guest. So that dude whips his dick out and puts it in the crocodile's mouth and smashes it over the beer bottle's head. And then this delightful-looking elderly gentleman comes up and says, excuse me, I'd like to have a go at that as well. And the bloke goes, be my guest. And he says, okay, just don't hit me with the beer bottle.
Nice.
That's the fucking length of that one.
That was a nice
got me.
Had a wholesome ending.
I mean, wholesome, yeah.
Tinker gives $5. Says, as someone who grew up playing fighting games in arcades, seeing someone else lose would bring me immense joy because that meant it was my turn to play. Well, there you go. Dynamics change.
Bloody arcades.
Connor Stillwell gives £5 and says, what do you call a black person flying a plane? A pilot.
Can we leave now? Can we leave now?
Oh, God.
I feel like I'm being held hostage.
You are.
That's the end. You're being held hostage until I do the wrap up. maybe I'll decide to tell another dirty joke. Oh, here comes another one. Brigham Burdick is $5 and says, "What is a walrus's favorite part of a boat?" Or.
That was a nice one. That was a very nice one.
I made myself laugh making walrus noises.
Your day is off to a good start.
There you go. All right. Thanks for listening to the Windbreakers podcast, where we were talking about how to make failure fun. And we certainly demonstrated failure pretty well in the last 10 minutes of this podcast. I was Yahtzee Croshaw. I was joined by Jay and Marty, as always.
Yay.
Don't forget, I've got a new Fully Ramblematic coming out this week on Wednesday. Guess what? It's a AAA game at long fucking last.
Oh my
it's
God.
Black Myth Wukong.
Kapow.
We're going to get like 400,000 Chinese people coming in talking shit about me.
1,000%.
What else have we got?
What if you really like it, though? Who knows? Maybe it's your goatee. We don't know.
Well,
We'll
I've already
see.
made the review, so yeah. Yeah. Don't forget my Yahtzee Try stream on Wednesday as well. That'll be about it for me, besides my usual appearance in Adventurers Night on Saturday. And I believe we've got an edited Yahtzee Tries video coming out this Sunday as well. That's my stuff. What else we got to plug?
They got a design delve this week on a game that I've been addicted to for 16 years and why that is, and all the designs that go into that. Those are also back on the store, right?
This wouldn't be a game that happens to rhyme with Smiled of Smallcraft, would it?
Yeah, more like Krilled of Smysmaft.
Could you imagine how smurled of s'morecrafts? That'd be delicious.
I'd eat the shit out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. Design Delve on Friday, as usual, every 2 weeks. Those are back on the store. The multiple and all of the Adventures Night plushies are now back up, I believe.
Yes.
So go check those out, guys. Get a whole suite of them.
You should buy me. That would not be a good idea. And I say that because I'm a huge liar.
But that. Oh, and today, Hidden Gems. I'm on Hidden Gems today because Jesse and Casey are out. So I'll be joining Jess to play a game. I can't. Jess, don't be mad. I can't remember the name
of Hobbs Barrow,
which takes place about 15 minutes drive away from my house.
I've played that. That's an Adventure Game Studio game.
Yes, so we're gonna be checking that out. So join us later on today.
For that, I forgot to give it to you guys, but I'll send it over shortly.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so that'll be at the normal time. Yeah, and then in terms of other streams, there's no so we'll have that later today. There's gonna be no streams tomorrow, including no rewind tomorrow. Darren is gonna be at a screening, and the Seattle crew is still in Seattle. So no rewind this week. We probably won't do a makeup of this episode, but we might try to organize like a cheeky little just hang out while playing a movie-based game. But we're gonna figure that out once folks are back.
Yeah.
Then Yahtzee Tries and Firelink on Wednesday, Devil May Cry on Thursday. We'll probably do something on Friday. Odds are we'll probably do something on Friday. So we'll figure it out.
Hell yeah.
All the content all the time. A few more super chats came in the last minute. Hug gives $4.99 and says, "Happy Labor Day, y'all. Thanks, Yards, for killing time with great jokes so I could get this out." And then Zaratha gives $5 and says, "This morning I saw a guy dragging a clam on a leash, and I thought it must be hard to walk with a pulled muscle."
Nah.
Alex Armstrong gives $2 and then says, "Granny died at a Nazi camp, fell off a guard tower."
Oh,
yes,
no,
I've heard
Granny.
that one.
Granny.
Grand, but in hindsight, probably for the best.
Oh, I just remembered my favorite joke.
Okay, your all-time favorite joke ever.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Adam and Eve are let in the Garden of Eden, and God says, "Hey, do what you like, but if you commit anything you think might be a sin, come back and tell me about it straight away." So the next day, Adam comes back to God and says, "Hey, God, we kind of ate those fruit on that big tree in that very obvious spot in the very middle of the garden. Were we not supposed to do that?" And God says, "Well, it would have been pretty silly of me to make that a major sin, wouldn't it? Just as long as you're having fun, guys." And then Adam goes, after we'd finished eating the fruit, we then had sex amid the roots of the tree. And God says, "Hey, we're all grown-ups here. I ain't no prude. You do what you like. I gave you willies for a reason. And then Adam says, "Oh, great. Well, thanks for being chill. Oh, and one last thing. After we were finished, Eve went down and washed her snatch in the river." And then God goes, "What? What? You don't know what you've done. Now all the fish will smell like that."
It's the fucking length of these jokes that gets me. It's the build-up. It's like I can't handle
I
it.
think jokes are a mistake. I think jokes were a mistake. Jokes are bad. I think jokes are bad.
Your definition between goof and joke. You don't like thought out
goofs are
planned.
good.
Yeah, goofs are good. I think jokes are good too.
And on that note, I bid you all farewell. Share your favorite jokes in the comments. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.